I could feel the heat pressing down like a heavy blanket, 115 degrees outside, and every fan in the house doing little more than wheezing. My chest tightened as I realized the AC had completely stopped working, an unbearable thought in this blistering heat. How would I survive the next few hours without relief? Would I faint? Could I even reach for my phone if I got dizzy? These were the kinds of questions that gnawed at me, and I felt that old anxiety creeping in, the one that comes when you're alone and dependent on someone else for help. I grabbed my phone and called the only AC repair guy I trusted, praying he could come immediately. Minutes later, he replied with a text, confirming he was on his way. But there was something in his tone, or perhaps the way he typed, that made my skin crawl. What if this wasn't just about a broken AC? Could there be something else? Something I hadn't noticed? The thought of being helpless, alone, and potentially at risk made my hands shake. Seniors know this fear all too well, the fear of being vulnerable in your own home, even in the most familiar rooms. And yet, curiosity tugged at me. What could be wrong beyond the AC? When the repairman arrived, the heat hit me even harder as I opened the door. His eyes scanned the living room and then shifted toward the attic. I tried to dismiss it, just a professional looking around. But something in the way he paused, studying the shelves and corners of the attic entrance, set off a spike of unease in me. How often do we seniors think we know every inch of our own homes, only to realize there's always a shadow, a corner, or a shelf we've ignored? The questions raced through my mind. Could there be something hiding up there? What if I've overlooked a danger I can't even imagine? I tried to reassure myself, telling my own heart to calm down. But then the repairman's phone buzzed. He glanced at it quickly, his brow furrowing. My stomach dropped. Who was he texting? Why did the air suddenly feel colder despite the blazing heat outside? That familiar creeping fear returned. There's always that moment when something seems small at first, but hints at something much larger and far more threatening. Moments later, the text came through, "Sir, there's a hidden door in the attic?" My heart skipped a beat, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. Hidden door? I had lived here for decades, known every floorboard, every closet, every nook. How could a hidden door exist without me noticing? My hand shook as I typed a reply, trying to downplay it. It's just storage. But even as I typed, a whisper of doubt crept in. What if it wasn't just storage? What if it was something no one was supposed to see? My mind raced with worst-case scenarios. Burglars, intruders, worse. Every senior knows that small lapses in safety at home can turn into moments of panic, and suddenly the familiar attic no longer felt safe. Every shelf, every shadow seemed menacing. I felt exposed, vulnerable in a way that the heat alone hadn't done. My thoughts looped endlessly. What if my daughter or son-in-law were here? Would I know how to protect them? Then came the second message, and it made my blood run cold. There are 5 locks on the door and a CO detector. I hear breathing inside. Breathing? How could there possibly be someone inside? I forced myself to reread the words, trying to convince my mind that it was a mistake, a misunderstanding. But deep down I felt the fear tighten like a vice around my chest. The AC repair guy had seen something I couldn't, and the thought that my own home, my sanctuary, was now a place of danger made every hair on my arm stand on end. Questions swirled like smoke in my mind. How long has someone, or something, been in there? How could I have missed it? What if I waited too long to call for help? Each question was a hook, dragging me deeper into a sense of urgency I couldn't shake. Seniors know this dread, the feeling that, despite your carefulness, danger can appear where you least expect it. And just like that, what started as a simple AC repair call became a test of instinct, trust, and courage. I stared at the attic door, sweat running down my temples, and debated my next move. Should I investigate myself, risking the unknown? Or should I trust the repairman's warning and call the authorities immediately? Every scenario played out in my mind with vivid intensity, the heat outside forgotten as fear and adrenaline surged through me. I pictured my daughter's face, my son-in-law's expression. What would they think if something happened here while they were away? This was a fear that seniors live with quietly, the fear of being helpless when no one is around to protect you or your family. My phone vibrated again, another message from the repairman. "Sir, please don't open it. I'm staying put until police arrive. I hear movement." That simple text turned my fear into icy dread. I had thought the day would be about staying cool in unbearable heat, but now every creak of the floor, every shadow in the attic became a pulse-quickening warning. My heart pounded as the realization sank in. Sometimes the most ordinary days can conceal the most terrifying secrets. The minutes dragged like hours, and every sound in the house seemed amplified. The old wooden floors creaked under my weight as I paced, every step making me second-guess my decision to stay put. Outside, the heat wave continued, but I hardly noticed the sweltering air. My mind was consumed by what might be lurking behind that hidden door. Questions I never thought I'd ask myself kept spinning. Was someone hiding in my attic for days? Could they have been watching the house without me knowing? The repairman had said nothing else, just stayed vigilant, his texts growing more insistent. Even small noises, a gust of wind rattling the window, the distant hum of a neighbor's AC, made my heart jump. Seniors know this creeping dread all too well, that sinking feeling when you realize your own home may not be as safe as you believed. Every passing second intensified the fear, making me feel trapped in my own sanctuary. Then came another message. "Sir, I hear breathing again. It's shallow, like someone is waiting for something." My chest tightened, and I struggled to keep my hands steady. How could I have missed it? How could this house, a place I've lived in for decades, conceal such a secret? My mind raced with every cautionary tale I'd ever heard about home intrusions, and I pictured the worst possible scenarios. Someone hiding, waiting, planning. And in that moment, a realization hit me. It wasn't just fear of a stranger. It was the fear of helplessness, the fear that I couldn't protect my family even if they were right here. My thoughts spun endlessly. If something happens, will I know what to do? Could I even reach help in time? The text from the repairman felt like a tether to sanity, but it also reminded me that the threat was real. I tried to calm myself, pacing back and forth, my gaze constantly flicking to the attic stairs. Every shadow seemed like a movement, every subtle creak a warning. The repairman had warned not to approach the door, but the curiosity clawed at me. What could possibly justify 5 locks and a CO detector? Could it really just be storage, or had I stumbled unknowingly into a danger far beyond what I imagined? Seniors often live with this duality, the urge to investigate versus the instinct to stay safe. I felt it acutely now, torn between wanting to know and fearing the consequences. Questions repeated in my mind like an echo. Should I trust my instincts or theirs? Is it too late to prevent something terrible? The heat, the fear, and the unknown combined to make the house feel smaller, every corner threatening, every sound magnified into a warning. Another text arrived, terse and urgent. "Sir, I see something moving behind the door." My pulse raced uncontrollably. Could it be a person? Had someone been living undetected in my attic for who knows how long? Or was it something else entirely? I couldn't stop thinking about all the little signs I might have missed. Unexplained noises, things slightly out of place, the fleeting sense of being watched. How often do seniors dismiss these signals, assuming they're imagining things? And now the reality had slammed into me with terrifying clarity. I was not alone, and this was not a drill. I felt my own vulnerability like never before, a mixture of fear, disbelief, and a rising need to protect my home and loved ones. Every tick of the clock seemed to echo the rapid thump of my heart, each second a reminder that danger could be closer than I dared imagine. I sat down heavily in the living room, phone in hand, staring at the attic door. I kept rereading the texts. 5 locks, CO detector, shallow breathing, movement. It all felt like a nightmare my mind didn't want to believe. Should I call the police now? Wait? Investigate? My thoughts were interrupted by another ping. "Sir, I hear whispering. Someone is speaking, very softly." That tiny detail, almost imperceptible, turned my anxiety into icy terror. The questions that had haunted me now demanded action. What if I wait too long? What if they hear me? Fear, heat, isolation, and uncertainty collided into one unbearable tension. And yet, a strange part of me wanted to know, wanted to confront the hidden danger, even as every instinct screamed to stay away. Seniors live with these moments, caught between instinct, caution, and curiosity. And in this moment, the attic wasn't just a part of the house. It was a test of every decision I'd ever made about safety, awareness, and trust. Every creak of the attic stairs sent a jolt through my body, and I couldn't decide whether to crawl under a blanket or call someone immediately. The AC repair guy's texts had transformed a simple heatwave problem into something unthinkable. 5 locks, a CO detector, breathing inside. Each detail clawed at my mind. How could I have overlooked this all these years? Seniors understand the gut-wrenching fear of realizing that your home, a place you've trusted for decades, might hide a danger beyond imagination. My hands trembled as I scrolled back through the messages. Each word seemed heavier than the last, filling my mind with scenarios too terrifying to dismiss. Was it a trespasser, an intruder, or something I couldn't even comprehend? The curiosity clawed at me, whispering, "You need to know. You have to see it for yourself." But the instinct for survival, that quiet voice every senior knows, screamed to stay back. Then came the next chilling detail. "Sir, the breathing is getting louder. I think someone is moving the shelves near the door." My heart nearly leapt into my throat. The shelves I had assumed were just storage suddenly became part of a trap or hiding place. Every senior knows the terror of realizing that the familiar can be hiding the unknown. I remembered little things, a missing screwdriver, a slightly shifted box, the faint echo of footsteps I'd ignored. Could all of this have been a warning? I felt a cold sweat drip down my back, and even the stifling heat outside was nothing compared to the icy fear creeping up my spine. Questions whirled. Was I being watched for weeks? Months? Had someone entered this attic without my knowledge? The thought of helplessness gnawed at me. Could I even protect myself if this escalated? The fear was so tangible, it almost became another presence in the room. I tried to distract myself, thinking about calling my daughter, my son-in-law, but they were out. That left me completely alone, facing something that I couldn't even see. Seniors know this fear intimately, the moment when every decision feels crucial and yet every option seems dangerous. My phone buzzed again. "Sir," there's a faint whisper. "I think someone is speaking to themselves." A whisper? In my attic? The words refused to leave my mind. My imagination ran wild, conjuring someone or something lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment. I couldn't focus on anything else. Every small sound in the house, the hum of a fridge, a gust of wind, even my own breathing, felt like a signal, a clue, or a warning. Fear and curiosity merged into a singular urgency. I had to know the truth, but every instinct screamed that knowing could be dangerous. I paced back and forth, feeling the weight of age pressing down on my limbs. My heart raced, my breathing uneven, and the heat no longer seemed like the worst threat of the day. I kept thinking, how could a house I've known for decades conceal something this terrifying? The thought of someone hiding, planning, or simply existing unknown in my home made me feel small, exposed, and unprepared. Seniors live with this anxiety in small ways every day. Concerns about safety, health, and being able to respond quickly in an emergency. And now, the attic was the epicenter of that fear. Another text arrived. "Sir, I see a shadow moving behind the shelves. It's not stationary anymore." That single line made my chest tighten, my hands shake, and my mind race with all the possibilities of what awaited behind that door. Could I survive a wrong decision? Time felt distorted, the minutes stretching impossibly as I stared at the attic door. My instinct screamed to call the police immediately, yet my curiosity kept whispering, "You need to see it for yourself. You need to understand." The AC repairman's professionalism had turned into a lifeline, each text a tether keeping me connected to reality. But reality itself felt fragile, thin as paper, threatened by the unknown lurking in the shadows. Questions surged like a tide. Was someone living here without my knowledge? Could it be a stranger or someone I know? Every senior knows that piercing fear, the helplessness of being alone and facing a situation beyond control. My mind cycled between panic and logic, calling authorities, locking myself in a room, or confronting the attic door. Each option had risks I could barely comprehend. And as I sat there, the silence broken only by faint shifting noises, I realized one terrifying truth. Sometimes the safest place, the home you've built for decades, can become the most dangerous place of all. The texts kept coming, each one tighter and more urgent than the last. "Sir, movement again. I hear a faint scrape, like something shifting behind the door." My heart raced, my pulse pounding in my ears. Every senior knows that sinking, helpless feeling when you realize danger is inside the place you thought was safest. I thought about my daughter and son-in-law being away. What if they were here? What if I wasn't able to protect them? I paced the living room, hands shaking, phone clutched tightly. Could I handle this alone? Every shadow, every sound felt amplified, like my home had transformed into a trap. The heat outside became irrelevant. The true danger was right above me, in the attic I'd always considered a mundane space. The repairman's texts had turned that familiarity into fear, and the simple question of what's in the attic now felt like a matter of life or death. Another message arrived. "Sir, I think someone is trying to open the door from the inside. It's faint, but deliberate." My stomach sank. 5 locks, a CO detector, and now deliberate movement. Someone or something had been hiding here and was aware of me. I thought back to the creaking shelves I'd ignored, the faint noises I'd dismissed. How often do seniors dismiss subtle signs, assuming it's nothing, only to realize too late? Panic gnawed at me. Should I confront it? Wait? Call the police? My mind raced through every worst-case scenario: an intruder, a desperate stranger, or even someone who had been living here undetected. The sense of helplessness tightened in my chest, and my hands shook so badly I could barely hold my phone. Fear, heat, and isolation merged into one overwhelming reality. I was alone, and something or someone was in my attic, watching, waiting. I debated making the call for what felt like hours, trapped in indecision. Seniors know the crushing weight of such moments, when every choice carries risk and time seems to stretch unnaturally. The repairman's next text left me frozen. "Sir, I think you should not approach the attic. I hear whispering now. Someone is muttering words I can't understand." Whispering? Someone talking to themselves? Or perhaps communicating? My imagination ran wild. Could it be a criminal? A desperate person hiding from danger? Or something even more unthinkable? My thoughts circled endlessly. Could I survive a confrontation? Could I protect my family if it escalated? Fear kept me rooted in place, yet curiosity clawed at me. The attic had become a puzzle I couldn't ignore, a locked box hiding a secret that had turned my home into a source of terror rather than comfort. I finally made the call. My hands trembled as I dialed the police, every second stretching like an eternity. What if they arrived too late? What if the person inside noticed me calling? Every senior understands that terror, the feeling that even a simple phone call could change everything. While waiting, I kept my eyes on the attic door, straining to notice even the slightest movement. The house, once familiar, had become a maze of fear. The shadows of furniture now menacing, the old floorboards threatening to betray every step. The heat was forgotten, replaced entirely by anticipation and dread. And then the faint sound of footsteps upstairs reminded me that whatever was behind the door was active, alert, aware of me. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown, every second a reminder of my vulnerability. And yet a strange resolve began to build. If someone was in my attic, I would survive this, no matter what it took. The sound of sirens in the distance brought a mixture of relief and renewed tension. Help was on the way, but the unknown remained above me. I thought of every senior insecurity that had led me here. The fear of being alone, the fear of helplessness, the worry about not being able to protect those you love. The repairman's texts had been a lifeline, but the attic itself remained a riddle, a locked chamber concealing a presence I couldn't yet see. I wondered how long it had been there and what it wanted. My imagination spiraled with possibilities, each one darker than the last. Had it been hiding for hours, days, weeks? And then came the next text, brief, almost casual. "Sir, I see something moving behind the door. Don't open it." That simple sentence reignited every fear I had felt since the first text, reminding me that while police were coming, the threat wasn't gone. The attic, my home, and my sense of safety all hung by a fragile thread. The wail of sirens grew louder, and soon uniformed officers were at my front door. Relief washed over me, but it was quickly tempered by fear. The attic still held its secret. I watched them move with precision, flashlights in hand, and realized I had been holding my breath for what felt like hours. Seniors know the anxiety of waiting for help, the feeling that even trained professionals may not arrive in time to prevent disaster. I told them about the AC repairman's texts, the 5 locks, the CO detector, and the faint breathing noises. Each word seemed heavier than the last, as if by saying them aloud I was inviting the danger closer. Every officer's glance toward the attic sent a shiver down my spine, and my imagination ran wild with possibilities. Was it an intruder? Someone trapped? Something I couldn't even comprehend? The officers approached the attic cautiously, their steps deliberate, flashlights cutting through the darkness of the ceiling. I followed at a distance, heart pounding, palms slick with sweat. Every senior knows the fear of seeing someone else face danger for you, realizing how helpless you can feel despite being in your own home. The AC repairman stayed close, eyes scanning every corner, his phone ready to text updates. And then came a subtle sound, the faint scrape of the shelves moving. My stomach turned, and I had to remind myself to breathe. Could the intruder sense us? Had they been hiding here all along, waiting for the right moment? The attic had transformed from a simple storage space into a chamber of suspense, and I felt the weight of every second pressing down on me. Suddenly, the officer paused, crouched near the attic stairs, whispering into his radio. I strained to hear. My mind raced through all the worst-case scenarios. Seniors understand this uniquely, the helplessness of watching and hoping that someone else can manage a situation you feel powerless to control. The AC repairman's text had been a warning. Now the officer's caution made it real. I could almost hear the heartbeat of the house itself, the creaks and groans of old wood magnifying the tension. Every shadow seemed alive, every corner a possible hiding place. The thought that someone or something had been behind that door while I lived here for decades made the familiar feel foreign and threatening. The unknown loomed large, and I felt its icy fingers grip my chest. Another text from the repairman lit up my phone. "Sir, I hear whispering again. They are saying something I can't understand." I glanced at the officers, who had begun inspecting the 5 locks carefully. The whispering sounded almost human, yet impossible to pinpoint. My imagination spiraled. Was it a lone intruder? A vagrant? Something worse? The attic had become a puzzle, a dark secret hovering above me, and the fear of the unknown kept my body tense. Seniors live with the awareness of hidden dangers more acutely than most. The thought of being unaware while threats lurk is a haunting reality. I realized that no amount of experience, no years of living safely could have prepared me for this. The ordinary home transforming into a site of unimaginable suspense. Finally, one of the officers carefully unlocked the first lock, flashlight cutting through the dim attic light. My heart pounded in my chest, each thump a reminder that my home might never feel the same again. I tried to steady my breathing, imagining every possible outcome: confrontation, discovery, escape. Seniors know this fear, the fear of helplessness and the sudden realization that a lifetime of security can be disrupted in an instant. The AC repairman hovered nearby, tense, eyes scanning the shelves. And then the faint sound of something moving. The final rehook made me freeze. Every instinct screamed, "Do not go closer." And in that moment, the attic door, with its 5 locks and CO detector, became the epicenter of every fear, worry, and vulnerability I had carried as a homeowner and as a senior. The unknown waited just beyond the door, daring us to find out what had been hidden for who knows how long. The first lock clicked open, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. My pulse raced as the officer carefully turned the handle, each movement deliberate. The air in the living room seemed heavier, thick with anticipation and fear. Seniors understand the dread of watching events unfold beyond their control, the helplessness of knowing something unknown is about to be revealed in the place you've called home for decades. My hands trembled as I held the repairman's phone. The text notifications paused for just a moment, yet my mind replayed each warning. 5 locks, CO detector, breathing, whispering. Questions tore through my thoughts. Could it be a person? Could it be dangerous? Could I have overlooked signs for years? Each possibility seemed more terrifying than the last, and the attic door had transformed from a mundane storage access into the epicenter of my deepest fears. The officers slowly lifted the latch on the second lock, and the faint creak of the door opening sent a wave of fear through me. I imagined what could be inside, every scenario more chilling than the last. Seniors know the terror of imagining what might be hidden in spaces long considered safe: the attic, the garage, the basement. I could hear the officers whispering to one another, their flashlights cutting narrow beams through the dusty darkness. Every step closer made my chest tighten. Every shadow seemed alive. The repairman's next text flashed again. "Sir, I see movement. They are crouched near the back." My stomach turned. Was it an intruder, someone desperate, or something even worse? The question loomed in my mind like a storm cloud. How long had this presence been here, watching, waiting? My home felt foreign, threatening, and utterly unpredictable. The third lock yielded, and the door swung open just a few inches. A musty and closed smell drifted out, mingling with the faint scent of dust and old wood. I held my breath, afraid to make even the smallest sound. The repairman's texts continued. "Sir, I can see a shadow. They are lying low, but breathing is steady." Every senior knows that moment of helpless vulnerability, the knowledge that you are at the mercy of events you can barely comprehend. My thoughts raced. If it's a person, are they armed? Could I be in danger if they notice me? My heartbeat was loud, almost deafening, yet curiosity gnawed at me, urging me to keep watching. The attic had become a living entity in my mind, a place that seemed to breathe, wait, and threaten all at once. The officers whispered back and forth, carefully maneuvering around the shelves, flashlights darting across boxes and furniture. Each small movement revealed more shadows, more uncertainty. I felt my body tense, muscles coiled as though bracing for the worst. The repairman's next text made my blood run cold. "Sir, they are whispering again, something about a door and keys." My imagination spiraled. Who? What? How long? Every senior has faced a moment of absolute vulnerability, but this was different. It was an entire unknown world hidden above me, threatening to intrude into the safety of my home. The fear was visceral, almost suffocating, yet the curiosity, the need to understand, kept me rooted in place, glued to every sound, every shadow, every hint of movement. Finally, the fourth lock clicked open, and the door creaked slightly as the officers began to push it wider. My palms were sweaty, my heart hammering, my thoughts in chaos. The repairman's text was almost frantic now. "Sir, I see something moving. It's crouched near a pile of boxes." My mind raced through decades of life, imagining every possibility: intruder, lost person, or worse. The attic I had walked past 100 times suddenly became a chamber of terror. Seniors know the dread of realizing that a place you've always trusted could harbor danger, and that's exactly what I felt now. Trapped between fear and curiosity, unable to look away, unable to step back, powerless yet desperate to know what lay beyond that door. Every second stretched into eternity, and the unknown waited just inches away, daring me to confront it. The fourth lock swung fully open, and the door creaked wider, revealing a narrow strip of darkness. The officer's flashlight swept across the attic floor, illuminating dust-covered boxes and forgotten furniture. I could hardly breathe, my heart hammering as every shadow seemed alive. The repairman's texts were urgent. "Sir, something is crouched near the far wall. I see a hand?" My stomach twisted. A hand? Who or what could have been hiding here, in my home, unnoticed for who knows how long? Seniors know the chilling sensation of realizing that your sanctuary might harbor unknown dangers, and that fear gripped me completely. Every old box, every beam of light, every shifting shadow made my imagination spiral with terrifying possibilities. The officers moved cautiously, their flashlights dancing across the attic walls. Then a faint sound, a shuffle, almost deliberate, echoed from behind a stack of old shelves. My pulse spiked, and I felt a cold sweat trickle down my back, despite the blistering heat outside. The repairman's next text made my blood run cold. "Sir, they are trying to get up. I can see movement now." Could it be a burglar, someone lost, or something even stranger? My mind reeled with questions. How long have they been here? Why hide behind those shelves? The fear of helplessness surged. Every senior understands that terror, the knowledge that even a well-kept home might conceal danger, and that your ability to act is limited. My chest felt tight and my hands shook, but my eyes were glued to the attic, unwilling to look away from the unknown. A faint whisper traveled through the attic. "Help, please." My heart skipped a beat. It wasn't aggressive, it wasn't threatening, but it was real, human, and desperate. My imagination spun. Someone trapped, someone hiding, someone who had been alone and afraid, perhaps for hours or days. The officers froze, listening intently, and my mind raced through every senior fear I'd ever experienced: helplessness, isolation, and the inability to protect loved ones. I could hardly move, unable to tell whether to step forward or wait. The repairman's texts continued. "Sir, I think they are exhausted, maybe sick, lying down." Relief and terror mixed in a confusing swirl. My home, my sanctuary, suddenly held life, fragile, hidden, and in danger. The first officer edged closer, flashlight steady, as the faint silhouette behind the shelves became clearer. A small figure curled up, breathing shallowly, eyes wide with fear. I couldn't help but feel a wave of empathy and anxiety all at once. Seniors know the terror of realizing someone's vulnerability mirrors your own. You are old enough to know danger can strike silently, but young enough to act if you must. My mind raced. Who left them here? How did they get in? Could they have survived alone for days? The repairman's texts described the faint breathing, the whispering, and the subtle movements. It was terrifying yet strangely reassuring, confirmation that what I feared was real and that help had arrived just in time. The final lock loomed above the crouched figure, and the officers carefully began unlocking it. The figure shifted slightly, a hand reaching out as if to grab something familiar. Relief mixed with adrenaline surged through me, but I couldn't shake the thought. My home had concealed a person without my knowledge, a reminder that danger can hide in plain sight. Every senior knows this fear, the fragility of safety, the limits of awareness, and the responsibility to act quickly when lives may be at stake. The repairman's last text before the officers reached the figure summed it up. "Sir, they're alive, but barely. Don't panic, help is here." My heart pounded as the officers moved closer, and for the first time in hours, I felt a flicker of hope. But the terror of what might have happened lingered, and the story of the hidden attic was far from over. The officers finally had the door wide enough to see clearly. The figure in the corner of the attic was a frail, shivering adult, barely conscious, wrapped in a tattered blanket. My heart ached, but fear still gripped me. What if they weren't alone? What if someone else was hidden in the shadows? Seniors understand this unique anxiety, the fear of not knowing, the fear of being responsible for another life while also protecting oneself. The AC repairman's texts continued to flash across my phone. "Sir, they are alive. Don't touch yet. Emergency services are on the way." I felt a knot in my stomach tighten. Every second I'd waited, every decision to call for help instead of investigating alone, suddenly felt monumental. The figure moaned softly, weakly, and lifted a pale hand. My chest tightened, realizing how close this person had come to danger, or worse. My mind raced with questions that seniors often fear. What if I hadn't called for help? What if they'd been trapped here longer? The officers began carefully moving boxes, uncovering the full extent of the space. Old furniture, shelves, and a hidden hatch I'd never noticed in decades. Each revelation compounded my unease. How could a home I knew completely hide such a secret? The repairman's next text only heightened tension. "Sir, it looks like they've been here for days. Couldn't move much." My stomach dropped. Heat, fear, helplessness, and responsibility collided into one unbearable weight. As paramedics arrived, the officers lifted the frail figure onto a stretcher, careful not to disturb them too quickly. My legs shook, my body tense as I watched. I thought about how seniors live with the quiet knowledge that danger can appear anywhere, even in the most familiar places. My mind raced with questions. Who had left them here? Why the 5 locks, the CO detector, and the whispering? The answers were still murky, and yet the reality was undeniable. My home had concealed life and danger in equal measure. The repairman's final words before stepping aside flashed in my mind. "Sir, you did the right thing. Just don't go in alone next time." I shivered, realizing that fear and caution had saved a life today. The paramedics moved the figure out of the attic, and I finally exhaled, though a tremor of residual fear remained. My home, which had seemed so safe, had shown me that even the ordinary could hide extraordinary danger. Seniors understand that lingering dread, the knowledge that safety is fragile and life can change in moments. My heart still thumped in my chest as I thought of my family being away, the blazing heat outside, and how close I had come to disaster. And yet there was also relief, tinged with awe and gratitude for the repairman's vigilance and the officer's swift response. But the attic, dark and silent once more, still seemed to watch, reminding me that its secrets had existed quietly, patiently, for far too long. I sat down heavily, hands shaking, trying to process the events. The attic had been a cage for someone, hidden from sight, almost invisible. The heat wave, my fear, and the repairman's texts had all culminated in a moment that tested everything: courage, decision-making, trust, and awareness. Seniors know the weight of such moments, the blend of fear and responsibility, the need to act despite uncertainty, the delicate line between danger and salvation. The repairman had gone, the officers had left, but my mind remained in the attic, with the faint echo of whispering and breathing. I realized that while life had been saved today, the memory of those minutes, the uncertainty, the suspense, the dread, would linger far longer. And as I stared at the empty attic door, I couldn't help but wonder, had I truly seen everything, or were there still secrets hiding in plain sight? With the attic finally cleared and the figure safely in the hands of paramedics, a strange quiet settled over the house. I sank into a chair, hands still trembling, trying to process everything that had happened. My mind replayed each text, each warning, each decision I had made in those tense hours. Seniors know this lingering unease, the awareness that danger can appear when you least expect it, and that even the safest places can conceal secrets. The repairman had left a note. "You acted wisely, sir. Many wouldn't have waited for backup." I realized that fear, coupled with patience and trust in others, had saved a life and perhaps prevented tragedy. But even as relief washed over me, I couldn't shake the feeling that my home had changed, that the attic had somehow expanded beyond a mere space to become a symbol of the unknown lurking in familiar places. The repairman had left a note. "You acted wisely, sir. Many wouldn't have waited for backup." I realized that fear, coupled with patience and trust in others, had saved a life and perhaps prevented tragedy. But even as relief washed over me, I couldn't shake the feeling that my home had changed, that the attic had somehow expanded beyond a mere space to become a symbol of the unknown lurking in familiar places. Later, I walked through the house, inspecting every corner, every shelf, every hidden nook I had once ignored. How many small signs had I missed over the years? The faint creak of a floorboard, the subtle whisper of air from the attic. Seniors often experience this heightened awareness, a mixture of caution and reflection that comes with decades of life. My chest still ached from adrenaline, but I felt a quiet gratitude for the repairman's vigilance and the officer's quick action. And yet a subtle fear remained, the recognition that homes are never truly predictable, that ordinary days can conceal extraordinary danger, and that sometimes life depends on the instincts you choose to trust. I called my daughter and son-in-law, my voice still shaky. "Everything's fine now," I told them, but I didn't want to sugarcoat it. The fear, uncertainty, and helplessness I had felt were real, and I wanted them to understand how quickly life can shift. Seniors know the weight of these moments, the realization that even when loved ones are away, responsibility still rests heavily on your shoulders. Every shadow, every door, every hidden corner suddenly seemed full of possibilities, both terrifying and humbling. The attic had been more than a mystery. It had been a lesson in vigilance, trust, and awareness. As I finally sat down, the house quiet, except for the faint hum of the still-functioning AC, I couldn't stop replaying the repairman's texts in my mind. Each one had been a lifeline, a warning, a connection to reality in a moment filled with fear. 5 locks, a CO detector, whispering, movement, it all seemed unreal, yet entirely possible. I realized that fear, curiosity, and action had combined to guide me through one of the most unsettling experiences of my life. Seniors often carry these moments as a reminder. Danger can hide in the most familiar places, and instincts, coupled with patience, can save lives. And even now, hours later, the memory of that attic, the unseen presence, and the trembling hand reaching from the shadows lingered like a shadow itself. I glanced at the attic one last time before closing the door, now empty, silent, and still. Relief mingled with a lingering tension, an unshakable sense that life could change in an instant, that safety is fragile, and that vigilance is a lifelong companion. The repairman had gone, the officers had left, and the house had returned to ordinary life. Yet my mind stayed suspended between fear and gratitude. Seniors know this duality intimately. The awareness that life is fragile, yet filled with opportunities for courage, quick thinking, and care. And as I walked through the living room, my thoughts kept circling. Had I truly uncovered all the secrets of that attic? Or were some still waiting, quietly, in the shadows? The question alone was enough to make me glance back one more time, just to be sure. The attic door now sat closed, 5 locks securing it once more. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling that the house had shifted somehow. My home had always been a place of comfort, yet in a few hours it had become a stage for fear, suspense, and the unknown. Seniors understand this duality. The ordinary can conceal danger, and life can pivot in a single moment. I walked slowly through each room, touching familiar surfaces, trying to re-anchor myself in normalcy. The heat from earlier seemed distant, replaced by a lingering adrenaline, a reminder of how quickly circumstances can change. Even the faint hum of the AC felt different now, reassuring, but also a subtle reminder of the events that had transpired only hours ago. I reflected on the repairman's vigilance, the police's professionalism, and my own decisions in those tense hours. Each choice, waiting, calling for help, trusting someone else's eyes, had mattered. Seniors know the weight of decisions under pressure, the fear of acting too late or acting too soon. The attic had been a symbol of the unknown, and navigating it had tested instincts, patience, and courage. I realized that sometimes life delivers lessons in fear and humility, reminding us that even in familiar spaces, vigilance is vital. And yet, despite everything, I felt gratitude. Grateful that lives were spared, that help arrived, and that my instincts had guided me to do the right thing. Even as calm returned, my mind lingered on the attic itself. Who had been trapped there? How had they survived unnoticed? And, most unsettling, had I truly seen everything? The unanswered questions clung like shadows, a reminder that some mysteries, no matter how much we uncover, may remain partially hidden. Seniors understand this subtle tension, the blend of relief, curiosity, and the lingering notion that not all threats are fully visible. My thoughts kept returning to the faint whispering, the shallow breathing, and the pale hand that had reached out. Even though the danger had passed, the memory of the attic would remain, quietly reminding me that life is fragile, unexpected, and sometimes eerily mysterious. That night, I checked the locks one final time, running my fingers along the 5 latches that had guarded a hidden secret for who knows how long. I thought of my daughter and son-in-law, the repairman, the police, and the frail figure whose life had been quietly saved. Seniors understand that fear often leaves a mark, not always visible, but felt deeply in the chest and mind. The house, once ordinary and mundane, now felt layered with tension, experience, and memory. Every shadow, every beam, and every creak carried weight, a quiet reminder that vigilance is lifelong. And as I finally sat down, exhausted, I realized that fear, curiosity, and courage had intersected in ways I would never forget. The final image in my mind was of the attic dark, silent, and still. Relief mingled with unease, the knowledge that the unknown still lurks in familiar spaces. Seniors know this feeling well. The balance of safety and vigilance, of curiosity tempered by caution. I knew the house was now truly secure, yet the story of the hidden door, the breathing, and the whispered presence would stay with me forever. Every lesson, every choice, every heartbeat of that day had reinforced the fragility of life and the importance of trusting instincts. And as I turned off the lights and walked away from the attic door one last time, a shiver ran through me, a gentle reminder that some mysteries, no matter how carefully revealed, will linger quietly, echoing in memory long after the danger has passed.